Alright, welcome to game 1 of Ragnarlordmon, and today we're playing against Bylzarmon, which kind of got a little bit of new support from EX6, which is exciting. I'm personally excited to play that deck as well. But anyways, this is about Ragnarlordmon here. We are going first and looking at our opening hand. Looks okay. What we're trying to really look for is our level 3s, level 4s, level 5s. We're really trying to climb up and digivolve up the stack as much as possible as we can. I am noticing I am playing some of the older Zubamon and the older Ludomon just because I feel like their searching capabilities is just so good. Being able to dig deep 5 into the deck to grab potentially 2 pieces, a Ragna and any Legend Arms, is just super effective. I'm really happy and glad that these cards are still incredibly useful even from such old sets. And here's a reason, even digivolving into that Ludomon with no inheritable at the start at the back isn't that bad, because I just absolutely love the new Kakemon. The Kakemon with the black base lets you return a source at the start of your main phase from underneath it, and you get to gain a memory off of it. And in there, I have another searcher in my hand already. I know I have a lot in my hand currently, but sometimes when my hand size is a little bit more limited, you know, being able to recycle that piece particular back and not have to feel bad on sort of wasting a non-inheritable in the stack feels pretty good now, because now I have an option. I feel like they hard play that Impmon. I feel like I wanted to address it because I could potentially raid into it, but I didn't want to go into security just because I don't have enough DP buffs to ensure that I can survive the check. Plus, I don't want to run into anything valuable for them, like an Ayamako or even like any option cards that can delete us right off the bat. So I didn't want to go for the riskiness, and it looks like they're kind of being slowed down a little bit anyway, so I felt like we had time. So therefore I decided to hard play that Zubamon in the end to put them at 1 and try to cycle and draw and then find pieces, and then now I can continue to build a second stack in the back, which is really nice. And having that one rookie, and just saying, like, even just only having one rookie, if you plan and digivolve up to a level 4 in the beginning, you can always cycle that rookie back, and that's how I kind of like to play it, because then I make sure that I have another rookie I can get into right away afterwards in the following turn when I hatch again. It's just really good. That's one of the key things that you want to keep in mind when you're playing Ragnarlordmon, just because you need to keep up with the momentum and consistency. Overall, I felt like I also just want to ensure myself to start my turn at 3 memory, because it's also really important for this deck. Memory is quite important because it helps you enable more plays and more flexibility, which is why I hard dropped the tie for 4 cost anyways. There's no way to play out Tamers for free in this deck, which is a little bit of its weaknesses, but once you have that Tamer going, it's going to give you that long-term value for the rest of the game, and it just synergizes incredibly well with this deck generally, because we tend to raid, we tend to redirect attacks, and being able to do that, we get to gain extra DP buffs and draw cards, which is one of this deck's most important thing to have as well, because we don't have a lot of searching such as memory boosts or any kind of trainings that can really benefit this deck overall, just because of the multicolor of red and black really just, you know, ruins the consistency when it comes to those searching cards. But anyways, that's fine. We're gonna come out now. We get to start at 3 with Kakemon. We basically start at 4 memory, and we can start tucking stuff back in to ensure we have more DP and whatnot. And then here I'm trying to look into going into Durandamon. Now I'm at a level 6, so I feel safe, so I can go ahead and attack and raid and do all that combo and shenanigans, and I get to trash their security, basically mitigating anything that could come from the effect. But still, we checked into Ayamako anyways right here, which really helps give them that value that they need. Now, when it comes to the game plan of the new Ragnarlordmon, it's very different from the old style, because the old style is more about the gacha, revealing what you have on the top of the deck. But here, we're really wanting to see Ragna Ace, and having Ragna Ace, we can go into Raijin Ludomon to force an opponent's Digimon to attack, making sure that they have something on the board to begin with, and then we can blast DNA and then counter them, and then do a whole bunch of when digivolving crazy effects to delete and clear off their board. But the situation doesn't look the greatest for us at the moment, just because we're not seeing those exact pieces, but we can always threaten it. Always remember, the important thing with this new Blast DNA combo is always play out and keep that level 6 out there on your board to let your opponent know that you might have it, even though you don't. You play it as if you do, because when you do so, the opponent will have to respect you, and they're gonna have to think twice before they start attacking and doing all their crazy combos, or before they can try to like swing at you, and because it's gonna give you that opportunity to counter them. So this makes them respect, although we don't have it just yet. You guys can see I am running the older one as well, which is actually really handy, and it's gonna be really helpful. And I kind of like it because it gives you a alternative sort of line of play if you don't see your full line of pieces. normally. So they went into this Biyuzamon here with Baomon. Baomon on deletion is essentially live, and they de-digivolve, and they could try to attempt to swing over, but they couldn't swing because it passed the turn anyways. So the Biyuzamon, new Biyuzamon has Rush, but it doesn't have Blitz. So passing back to us, we're starting at 3 and we go to 4 with Kakemon all over again. I'm here debating, is it actually necessary to deal with that current Biyuzamon on the board? It has floating and everything. I could technically try and attempt to get rid of it and clear their board, but they can just easily float bodies back, which is something I might not want them to do. So I'm just kind of debating there if I wanted to just actually Digivolve in the back, put them back to 1, and just chill and sit there with a level 5 in the back for a line of play, which is very common for this deck as well, which is a very common line of play because once you Digivolve up to your 3 all the way to your 5, you're ready to go the next turn afterwards. And you know, we don't feel like we necessarily have to deal with it. I don't feel like they can actually just end us just yet. They don't have enough firepower in their trash to trash all of our security, and we still have at least 4 here to go. So it looks like they have to attack with this Biyuzamon anyways, and they mill, which they do get quite a bit of value off of it, hitting that Rival's Barrage, gaining a memory with Wizard as well, and then they can continue to mill here, and they can even put something back to the top with Wizard as you guys saw there, and then the swing over here is fine. And again, like, there's not a lot of damage happening. Here, they decide to also go for the Impmon to check one more, and that means they're gonna have to find a way to sort of like reset up for their follow-up turn, and then we're ready for the clapback to get back into them. Because now that their Baomon sort of floating capability is gone, that Biyuzamon on the board isn't really as important as it is anymore. So here, they're gonna set up, play a Wisdom, search for another Biyuzamon, have an Impmon at the back, which is not the warping one, but that is totally fine because with the amount of cards that they, you know, finish off with an Iron Mako and set up here, 2 Iron Makos, a Wisdom, and a Rival's Barrage, and a live Biyuzamon, I know for sure I have to do something this turn now. I can't wait any longer. I have to try and attempt to finish them, checking their trash. You know, they have a lot counting into it. They can easily just trash 2, swing for game with Biyuza X. They can just climb up to that combo. So we have to actually finish here, which is really unfortunate because, you know, if we had the Blast DNA combo, maybe we could kind of survive a little bit, or maybe try to survive a little bit longer. But unfortunately, I just felt like, no, this is the moment. I have to go for it. There's actually somewhat of a winning formula here to try to attempt to go for game. With only 3 security left, I have 3 bodies to work with, and thankfully, like, it never really chipped away with the Zuba or the Zuba Eagomon in early stages of the game, because now they get to stay here for the longest time. They're basically useful to help me finish off the game. So I'm kind of debating and seeing, like, okay, this is a really tough decision, because if I run into a Rival's Barrage or even a Death Slinger, this could basically be the end of me. And sometimes I guess like the good old classic Ragnar playstyle still has to come back. You got to do a little bit of gambling. So this is why I go into the older Ragnar Lordmon, which is actually still really nice, because even though we pay 3 to Digivolve on top of our 6, as long as we're tucking underneath a Durandamon or a Briludramon, even though we Digivolve on top of Durandamon, we can tuck the same Durandamon underneath, we can gain the 3 memory back. So here I'm just trying to establish and see what sequencing I go for. Swing over the Biyuzamon just to pierce for it, and then do 2 checks, and we get to finish it off with our Zuba Eagomon on the side and swing for game. Alright, so for game 2 of Ragnar Lordmon, we're going to be playing against Dominimon and the 3 Great Angels. Here, looking at our opening hand, Ragnar Lord, we do need to see our line. Ideally, it's going to be our 3, 4, 5s. Any of them will do, because the whole purpose is to climb up and then sort of draw our cards and draw our pieces that way. Otherwise, we want to see cards like Spadamon or a Rookie so that we can continue to slip stuff underneath to continue to draw as much as we can. That's the whole thing, because this deck doesn't have a lot of search power, and that's sort of what we need to prioritize on mostly. So this looks a lot better for us, so we can go into a Ludo, and then now we have a full line going into the Super Eager, and then we can go into a level 5 and sit at the back. The whole main game plan is very traditional and very straightforward. We're just trying to climb up the stack, no fancy searching, no need to sort of like think about the ratios in terms of like what we're grabbing and whatnot, because all we have to do is see we align, we go for the line, and we just go all the way up here. Now, this is the decision that we have to start making, because now we have a level 5, we can get ready to push out. They have an Angelwomon out here ready to go. So I'm trying to debate. Raijin Ludamon is always the card that you want to really have in your hand in the mid stages to get into your combo. So that's why I decided to push out in a Duramon here. Now I know even if I return something back first to gain the memory, I can't really kind of retain my entire turn. So I actually do return the Ludomon just because I know I don't have another rookie. So that's my backup rookie to go into. I do tuck in the Raiju Ludamon just to force the Angewomon to attack at the start of their main phase and then finish off with a Bryludra so that we can potentially block it. But either way, with the forcing attacking combo here, it doesn't work super well against them just because they're going to end up deleting their own Angemon and go into the bottom of security anyways. It kind of plays around our opportunity to blast Digivolve against them, which is really interesting. So here we're okay though, at least we climb up to the stack a little bit. They're trying to ramp up with their TKs, cycling through their security, gaining a ton of memory, and they're just trying to set up with another Angemon at the back ready to go. So here's a really good example. You know, having that Ludamon back in our hand makes a lot of sense. I decided to not use Kakinmon's Inheritable here, just to pass on it, just because I don't feel like I need to gain the memory. Although I could have just gained that memory anyways, Digivolve into Super Eagermon and then tuck in like something by choking the opponent back at 1 by getting a little bit more inheritable. When it comes to a yellow matchup like this, it is kind of important to make sure that we rack up enough DP power as much as possible during both our turn and the opponent's turn, just because they have a lot of DP reduction effects. So they go for Revelation of Light here and trying to see if they find what they can play. They can possibly play like a Gatomon, but looks like they go for a Luxmon to go for Search. And since they have a Kari anyways, they do get to put it back on top of the security, so we're gonna have to be wary about that. But that's okay for Ragnar Lordmon, because once we get into a full stack in line, we can actually start trashing their security and play around security effects. However, Revelation of Light does activate even when it's trashed from security, so that's going to be a little bit tricky for us. But you know, 5000 DP is not going to hurt us too much at this particular moment, because as long as I mentioned before, let's just try to rack up as much DP as we can. We see a perfect opportunity here to actually go into the Raiju Ludamon and force them to attack once again. And I really love this new Kakinmon because it just gets you cycling resources over and over again, and you can gain memory off of it. The deck doesn't have any boosts and not a lot of memory gaining effects aside from Kakinmon to really help supply it. And that's why we really need a memory tamer in this deck as well. And that's the reason why you guys can see the tie. I'm going to go for the attack here either way, and chipping away, we do hit into Revelation, we'll lose a Super Eagomon, which might be a little bit of a slight suboptimal play, because then I lost a body for no reason, but I kind of felt like I wanted that memory from the Kakinmon either way. But by tucking in Raijin Ludamon, we can retuck the Super Eager from trash, and then by finishing off with the brand new Legend Arms option card, we can now force them to attack into us with Raijin Ludamon first, blast Digivolve into here, going into Ragnar Lordmon, trashing their security, which we unfortunately trashed a Gatomon, but we still get to delete something afterwards anyway, so we deleted, so then we kind of play around the barrier. But having that other option set is that if they ever try to remove our board or try to get rid of a Ragnar Lord stack, we can at least play something back from underneath the stack and sort of float and continue our plays from there. So by forcing their Luxmon to attack, we basically clear the board. We get to block with Ragnar as well. So we're having a super strong body on the board, and we're just chilling here with that. It has a ton of effects during both the opponent's turn and our turn. We have Raid, Reboot, Blocker. We're not really affected by their effects except for deletion. And the main tool of removal that's kind of tricky for Ragnar Lord is that it's one of weaknesses is DP reduction, because it doesn't have DP reduction protection in this deck, unless if we actually slide in like a Bryludra or something like gives its like immunity for an entire turn. That's another thing we kind of want to pay attention to. Where there's a lot of different lines of play. As I'm learning as well and playing this deck, there's so many different counters and methods that we can really utilize off of this. So once again, the most important decision is if we're playing the black base with Kakinmon, at the start of a main phase, we always have to consider and think about if we want to put a source back into our hand. Now, gaining that memory matters a lot, because then it totally determines for the rest of the turn if we're able to choke the opponent out, and basically shows us how much plays we can actually make at this moment. So we're going to go attempt to attack into their security, but then we're going to raid. By raiding, we redirect, we basically get to trash the security, we'll raid into that Gatomon, and they're going to use barrier to keep it alive so that it can basically stay on board. And with that, they only have 2 security left, but here they are. They're going to go into their combos. They're going to go into Magna Angemon, going into Domini. Domini is going to be able to play stuff from the security after by tucking something in with Magna Anja as well. And this is just a really good position for them. That's the time for them to make a huge comeback. They got tons of TKs and Karis to work with, suspending it all, gaining a ton of memory, and continuing their turn, playing out that Magna Angemon Ace. Now, they're not going to be able to DP reduce us weight a bit too much, just because they only have 2 security. So it's only going to be minus by 2k, but it gets the extra 7k minus as well from Dominimon. So currently our Ragna is looking at sitting around quite a decent amount of DP still, but they're going to try to find a way and try to remove it, which I mentioned is a bit of a weakness. Maybe thinking back, I should have slided something underneath as a black source to give it extra DP during the opponent's turn to last at least over the board, so then we wouldn't have been deleted or going about to, worry about being DP deleted. So here they're trying to bait out the attack first. We got to think about it. I have a feeling that they are going to finish us off this turn anyways, and I'm just trying to debate if blocking would be necessary. If I block and they basically, it forces them to use barrier, but I kind of let it through because it felt like it was a little bit of a bait. I really want to see if they really could actually clear us off. With the swing of the Domini here, we clearly can't block because our DP is actually lower than it, so that one has to be let go. Because if I block the Gato first, they can actually easily just swing over us with Domini and we're just going to lose our entire stack. So we kind of have to let them go through, let them take a little bit of advantage right here as well, which can be tricky. Although I would argue that we could possibly block anyways, and then we could use the option card to maybe bring back a level 6 underneath out, and then we can re-threat the Blast Ace DNA Digivolution combo. But they went into a Cherubi Ace here anyways in the end to basically play a body out, reducing the rest of the DP to our entire stack. They also gain Ace Overflow, essentially a lot of memory back for them, but at least we can play a level 6 back out, which is Juramon, so then we can kind of threaten another potential ace. Now, you guys can see our hand. We technically don't have it. We just don't have another Ragna Ace. We might have Ragna Ace, but we might not even have the Bryludra Ace. Yeah, we actually don't have the Ragna Ace, and we can't really actually go into Blast DNA, but it's always important to play it as if you do, because it forces your opponents to play around. It forces them to respect it and not go too aggro. That is one of the defensive line of plays and one of the new really fun things about the whole Blast DNA Digivolving, and the whole thing kind of comes around in circles in the end. You guys can saw we top deck the Ragnalord Ace here now, so then we actually have the full combo online and we can do it all over again. But this is really tricky because of not having a memory setter tied and we didn't establish it early enough. We're now in a position that we're just constantly being choked down on one memory by our opponent, and we are really limited on our plays. We can push out the stack with Teoluda, and then we get to gain a memory with Kakemon by returning the Ludo back to our hand. But here, there's not a whole lot we can really do. But there are a lot of memory effectiveness because they have Ace on their end. They have that Cherubi Ace with the Magna Anja Ace. I know for sure I want to get rid of that. I want to be able to force them and Blast DNA the next turn. So with the amount of Raijin Ludomons that we have in our hand, definitely makes sense to use it. And we force their Digimon to attack. We're basically going to force their Domini to attack here, and then we can actually do a very crazy Blast DNA and try to attempt to clear their board and even pass their turn against us. So by forcing that Domini to attack, we're going to go for the Blast, of course, with Bryludra and the Ragna Ace, the new ones. Once again, we're going to de-digivolve the entire board. We're going to trash the security as well, but by de-digivolving the entire board, Cherubi Ace Overflow is going to come back, and now we're going to make a decision on who we want to delete specifically. I've been debating maybe deleting the Gatomon just because it has barrier, but deleting the Magna Anja Ace is also good because we get more Ace Overflow as well. And by doing that, we can also finish it off by blocking the Magna Angemon attack, since the Domini was attacking to begin with. And even with that, since they lost only one security, they can only really carry once right here, but they still have 3 bodies on the board for us to deal with. So I'm really debating and really thinking, okay, they might, chances are, because they have 2 level 4s, very likely we gotta play around their aces. It could be Magna Angemon Ace, it could be Angewomon Ace. Either of those 2 cards are gonna be really effective against us overall. So I felt like, okay, maybe I should climb up and Digivolve on top of the Teoludamon. Unfortunately, I can't utilize Kakemon's effect since I don't have one on the Ragnalord stack, and even the Teoludo, there's no sources to really return back to our hand. So we're gonna have to hard Digivolve into Raijin Ludamon, which I kind of hope we could have Digivolved into like a Doraemon instead. So instead of raiding, we're just gonna try to attempt to go for game and go straight at their security and see what happens. Now I know I'm really tempted to sort of like raid into their unsuspended and then trashing the security, and then there with Angewomon Ace, they're gonna minus 6k to our Raijin Ludamon. But thankfully we are at 7k, so we do have 1k left right here. And then here, really unfortunately, since they recovered with Angewomon Ace, we checked into a Revelation of Light, which minuses the rest of the 5,000 DP to our Tearlulumon, and our Ragnarlordmon is now down by 5k. We are actually at 16, 17-ish, because we have the Ludamon inheritable for extra 2k, and Ragnar itself is actually at base 15. So with the Revelation of Light minusing 5, we're basically down to 12k here at this particular moment, which can be scary. And this is one of the small little mistakes that maybe I should have tucked in extra DP buffs to it, especially with the black sources, because with the black line and sources, we can at least gain some DP until the end of opponent's turn, and also have the inheritable to keep it so that we have extra DP during the opponent's turn as well. Keep in mind, Revelation of Light is still active because it lasts until the end of the opponent's turn, which is as in like their turn. Usually the text is basically lasting until the end of your turn, so it's the opponent's turn right now, basically lasts. So all they do here is just hard slap a Cherubi Ace, play out another body, another Gato, and basically reduce the rest by the 12k, essentially clearing out the entire board, and then we Ace Overflow back to them as well. And then we're basically starting our turn with 2 memory and only a Ludamon in the back to work with, which is incredibly tough here. We're in an incredibly tight spot, and we're just trying to see. We can't really climb up any further because surely we can try to go to a level 4 and then a level 5, but then we're not really going to be sitting there threatening the Blast Ace anymore because we can't get them to the level 6. Which is one of the major weaknesses with this deck. There's no 4, there's nothing to threaten when you have a 4 or a level 5, so we can really only just Digivolve in the back, and then sure, let's just play a Zubamon just to search through our deck and see what pieces we can grab and see, and hopefully our security might help us out right here if we have anything. But here at this point, the opponent's board is just incredibly wide. They go for Alliance, 2 checks with Cherubi, and then that's it for basically the swing for game. Alright, game 3, we're up against Explosiveness, and being able to sort of like hand control the opponent into Zuber Egamon. You guys are pretty familiar with this combo already, like I mentioned before. It's good to sort of start off like that, you know, here, and then we just Digivolve into Duramon at the back, and we're just basically chilling. We could arguably just that it gives us access to a secondary rookie, kind of, because now we don't have a memory setter Thomas, so I just felt like let's just go into Bryludra as soon as possible, just because Bryludra is really good against this deck when it has a lot of protection effects, which actually really hard shuts off against Mirage. They can't really bounce us, they can't really strip our sources at the moment because of Bryludramon, and we're standing here in tall with a strong blocker, and we're basically ready to go the next turn as well. All the Mirage player can really do is try to attempt to set up and maybe try to play more boost, but looks like they're missing a level 4 to Digivolve in the back even, so they kind of have to hard slam the Zudo Ace and go into Mirage to make us force and add a security to put us back to 1, which doesn't seem too bad, but here it gives us a really good position to actually change the tide right now and actually play a bit more aggressively. So of course, I'm not going to use Kakemon effect to return anything just yet because I kind of felt like I want to keep it here, although I could have returned another Duramon and then sort of gain that memory and then pay the 2 and then maybe continue to play onwards a little bit there. But at this moment, my priority is to get rid of that Mirage as soon as possible because we don't want to accidentally draw into any cards and then end up giving them memory and pass turn and whatnot, which is why we might utilize the Raijin Ludum online with Durandamon, de-digivolving the board, deleting something as well, and then trashing their security. And then now we have a strong Ragnarlordmon standing tall, and there's actually nothing they can really do because Mirage just remain removed 17 during our turn as long as we have red sources, extra 2Ks. Otherwise, we can pump it up all the way to 17 during the opponent's turn by putting in black sources, which would actually make it, even stronger. Or the vice versa is we can go for this tie play right here, passing them perfectly back to 3. Whenever they try to attack into us, as long as we have blocker and all that, we can pump it up to 7k, which basically plays around their burst mode, unless they have a Demi V egg, which pumps it up even further to 6 Ludramon inheritable, and as well as Raijin Ludamon to help us protect against like battle, any deletion kind of effects, except for our own. Now here in this position, it looks like they just really need a cycle. They're not seeing the pieces they need, and they're not able to set up enough. And this is one of those pain points of Mirage where we can like right now just like take a huge advantage and take a huge lead. I can put the Raijin Ludamon back to my hand and use it again the next turn to even force them to attack into us, and then we go for the whole Blast DNA combo again when we could have either play around the Zoodle Ace, just in case if they have it. I don't want them to bounce our Super Egomon, which is why I'm starting to find sources to tuck in underneath by paying that memory, and by, you know, tucking in additional sources, we can now like raid and swing. Basically with Ragnar, it trashes 2 security because we're double Duranda, and then we're gonna go for game just like that. Make sure to grab your copy of the Space Time Angel playmat on the Vault store.